That's it.
All right, now we're being live streamed. Let me close my door real quick. I would probably have a shorter meeting today, but I have a ask on in the end. We can open up for discussion, but really try to prep us for the next discussion. Let's give it just a little bit to make sure everyone gets on. I know that it's hit or miss sometimes as people are getting back to the normal routine as far as who can make it to this and who can't, but you know, Mr. Bell is always here, so we'll give him a few minutes and good morning, Amber.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Living the dream, got a packed weekend. So we have an ambassador coming from Lao. And so today we're gonna take him and tour Spirit and other company, and then tomorrow do some stuff in the Laotian community. So should be fun.
Exciting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are you enjoying the snow? I'm about over it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, we just came back from Washington, D.C. The day we showed up, it was like 30, 40 degrees. The day we left, it was like in the 70s. So just kind of similar to Wichita, right? Where 1 week it's beautiful, next week it's not. Tomorrow I think it's gonna be the 70s. Today it's snowing. I put a plant outside yesterday, thinking like, okay, now's the time to put plants outside, and now it's dead.
Now you killed it. Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's whatever, but just kind of enjoying this transition over to an actual, hopefully, summer. And you know, one of the things we'll get into a little bit is hopefully it's a more normal summer, and
right.
You know what, we can get out and do stuff again. So
yeah.
Mayor, this is Casey. I have some people that are on the old link, so I'm getting them moved over to this new Zoom call link, and then so everybody should be on here shortly.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so a couple things before we get in while we wait for the other folks. Janet has announced her retirement actually a few months ago, to be honest. In the meantime, we hired Casey Yingling, who has a wealth of experience both in the private sector and also in political and policy. She's now the assistant to the mayor. So there's enough overlap, I think, with Janet and with Casey, where we're trying to not miss a beat pretty much. But of course, as you know, Janet had, I think, her login, her stuff with her link. Some folks might have to, and I didn't even know which link to click on, right? So we're gonna have to make these small adjustments to get us up to speed. But so, and I said this at our press conference yesterday too, reaching out to Casey, if you want to get to me or the council, is going to be what to do moving forward. Janet is still around. She'll be happy to forward any emails or whatnot. But again, Casey is now the new Janet. And she has a legal background and also a policy background. She actually has a full law degree, a member of the bar, and she's left her law practice to do this, which means she's going to be really a good asset when it comes to drafting and exploring public policy. Which, as you guys know, that's my bread and butter. I want to fix things using the ordinance and using our public policy. So as we start to transition into this new normal, this hopefully post-COVID or type of COVID world in which we're just dealing with COVID or living with it, then we're going to be leaning on you all to learn more about that experience, and then trying to make policy adjustments as needed so that we can just be prepared for our small business communities to get the most out of out of the changed behaviors people will have because of COVID. So, all right. So with that, we're about 8 minutes in. We'll go ahead and get started. I see Wayne's on, so I usually wait for him because he's on the agenda. So welcome everybody. We're going to hear from the new council member Ballard in a little bit, but she's on as well, in case folks are wondering who Maggie's iPhone is. And we'll go ahead and get started. So first, we got the approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, if there's any discussion, if there's no discussion and no proposed changes, I'll make a motion that we pass the minutes. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Mr. Bell. All in favor of said motion, please respond with either saying aye or a thumbs up. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, or a thumbs down. All right. So with that, the minutes pass. We're going to go into COVID relief updates. So Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. And good to see everyone. Very briefly, we continue to work through now. We're at a point where we're working through loan reconsideration requests under the COVID EIDL program. And there are a number of complex applications that continue to basically undergo the review process. So if anyone that's either watching this or anyone that is on the call now has an application that's in a status where you just want to know what's going on, you haven't heard anything in a while, please reach out to us locally. We've been able to successfully work through some of these complex applications and get them resolved. Beyond that, our normal programming is really still in effect. So SBA lending, actually our lending at the moment is higher than our pre-COVID levels. So it's encouraging to see that. Typically in a year out of our local district office, we support about $70 million in small business lending, and that was pre-COVID. We're on a pace right now to shake out somewhere in the area of maybe $90 million in terms of lending, and that's for growth or expansion projects or new businesses, that sort of thing. So that's good to see strong activity under our normal programming. We do have some training opportunities and various things that are coming up, and a few things I just want to highlight. So there is on April 12th, the Kansas Chamber is hosting the Kansas Minority Business Summit, and it's going to be done in 2 locations simultaneously: Garden City Community College and Kansas City, Kansas Community College. But it's a statewide program. It's got a really neat agenda. There's a segment on the agenda we'll get into supply chain challenges and opportunities, as well as business resources. And again, this is a statewide program, 2 locations. If you go out to the Kansas Chamber's website, you'll see the registration information for the Kansas Minority Business Summit. And then 2 other things I want to highlight. June 6th through the 9th, there's a program called Encountering Innovation. The Kansas Small Business Development Center has coordinated Encountering Innovation. You're going to have tech scouts from Department of Defense agencies that will be out. They're going to listen to pitches. There's going to be a kind of a supplier matchmaking event. There'll be a series of different workshops, and that is June 6th through 9th. And that one is at Johnson County Community College. Again, but that's really more of a regional program, and I think it should be pretty neat. Then finally, June 20th through the 21st, the National Rural Grocer Summit is here in Wichita. And this National Rural Grocer Summit is intended for small groceries that are in urban areas, as well as groceries that are out in rural communities. And it attracts national, participants from just all around the country. It's going to be here in Wichita and should be a good opportunity to hear more best practices, how communities are dealing with food deserts, so on and so forth. So a lot of good discussion and opportunity to grow if you're in a business in that area. So I'll stop there, Mayor, and I appreciate the opportunity to share. And I invite anyone, I'll drop my contact information in the chat. As always, I know there are a few that I need to get back to. Is Felicia Despain? Is Felicia on the call?
Doesn't seem to be.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bell, thank you for that update. I think Congress is asking for some more money when it comes to responding to COVID. That has not gone anywhere yet, but I'm sure if something goes forward, then Mr. Bell will be on top of it, as well as we will at the city level. So we're going to jump in just to a little bit about the NCL conference, the National League of Cities. We just came back from Washington, D.C., myself and Councilmember Ballard, and really the whole council except for Councilmember Blubach. I was the only one who didn't go this time around. Some interesting stuff to take back. First, some of the statistics and trends that we saw during COVID that apply directly to the service sector and also to retail. Interesting tidbit is retail was actually up during this time. We got a lot of insight on inflation, on what's actually causing the inflation, and how the government's responding to it. And some of the feedback that we got was or the information that we got was really about the international supply chain and how because of the stimulus and because of some of the other, we actually saw a rise in retail and spending that correlated when people got their stimulus. So because of going back to some of this data, it really gives us a bit of a indication on how people responded at the height of the pandemic. So as you move forward, I'll try to get some of the information, get out to you guys. I got some notes, but also figure out if I can get my hands on some of these slides. It's a good indication if you're trying to forecast what this upcoming summer might be like, and this upcoming year might be like, basing it off of really what was happening at the worst of our pandemic. So I'll try to provide that information for you. Really, some of the takeaways were people were spending a lot of money. We're seeing a lot more of the modeling, particularly if you work in the food sector. That was more modeling after Sonic type stuff, where people are going through drive-thrus and then instead of going inside, was actually going to like a bay. So now we're seeing Burger King, we're seeing a lot of Chick-fil-A is doing this. We're seeing a lot of switch over from like big dining room environments over to places to park your car and eat. So that's one of the transitions that in the markets that people are seeing. I know none of us here own a fast food franchise, but they do a lot of research. So it's interesting to have that type of research come down to our small business community, so that you guys, if needed, can make adjustments as well. With supply chain, of course, now the government's responding more onshoring, where the Asian markets are just not being able to produce what they used to produce at this point. They're still going through COVID. And so we're trying to now, with some of the money coming forward, stimulate more manufacturing and production here in the States. So that's also something to keep an eye out for. Particularly some of those opportunities are going to be for our mid-sized businesses here in Wichita. Ones I really can't talk too much about, but we're going to see, I think, some people taking advantage of some of that federal money, which is going to create opportunities for us here in Wichita. Another takeaway was, of course, that people are looking for particular retail and service sector jobs, and how people are looking for more of that Main Street experience that really kind of shined in the data that was presented to us. So people, like, their hearts are in small businesses, but they still utilize larger businesses like Costco and Walmart for different things. But when they go out, they are looking for kind of an experience, as well as not just to buy all their stuff. there's a correlation between places like Walmart and places like Costco and places, you know, some of these big item or big national chains. When they move into our market, a lot of people think it's going to hurt the small business community around that, but it's actually, the data has shown that after that initial bump is over, it actually helps the small businesses in the area because it's expanding the pie. People who might not drive out very far to go to, you know, a little shop, will to go to Costco's, and while they're there, they will check out, you know, Andrew's coffee place or one of these other places. So it actually brings more people to those areas. So that was important, I think, to look at when it comes to this kind of balance of the small businesses and the large businesses, and what's we've been seeing nationally with some of these trends. Other than that, we got a pretty good read on how to access some of these opportunities with federal money coming in, which is going to help with infrastructure, which helps with all of us. There's an unprecedented amount of grant money right now available or will be available just with the American Rescue Plan. And we are working to figure out best ways to tap into some of that to help out not just Wichita, but also, you know, create that environment in which you guys can thrive. So that was some of the takeaways. Again, at least the ones that I've found to be useful, particularly for this group. Again, we have Councilmember Ballard on as well. She attended different classes, so I don't know if she wanted to add to this, but we're going to talk about that and then get into some of the other opportunities we have in front of us. So, Maggie, you got anything?
Can I ask a question really quickly?
Sure.
So I know you mentioned there was lots of more funding. I mean, are you guys looking at more funding for like public transportation here? I mean, because I know that with the rising gas prices and everything, I know that, you know, public transit is going to be more heavily used. So, I mean, are we looking at more options for that?
We are. There's a few other things coming down where it's not just so much. Of course, we have asked about more electric buses, and we have to be able to scale up our own drivers for the fleet of buses we currently have. But also, we're going to see more opportunities with the federal government for green initiatives that might expand out into, you know, different electrical charging stations, and also other modes of transportation. We already have really decent bike paths. So, you know, is there a way that we can utilize some federal opportunities to expand on those? Basically, we got to talk with staff. We have grant writers, but they're kind of sporadic throughout the organization. We might have to contract with more grant writers that can figure out where these opportunities are. Now, when it comes to utilizing our public transportation, one of the issues with our public transportation is just how long it gets from point A to point B. And really, there's not much of an easy fix with that, except putting more buses down. Just getting more buses would be the easiest fix for it. Unlike most cities, we don't have a sales tax or a tax funding stream that goes right into or is, you know, earmarked for public transportation. It just comes out of the general budget. So that's one of the setbacks we have compared to some other cities and other areas. But
can I piggyback? Sorry,
yeah,
I just
please.
want to add on to what Amber said. I really think that we need more attention on the public transportation situation. And it's not just due to the rising gas prices. Like, it's been an issue.
I know.
We all know. No, but it's definitely like compounding the situation, right? We're working on some possible new projects. And as we've been discussing different parts of town that it could be accommodated. We're hoping to bring in more people from, you know, outside our community in, and it's really limiting as to what parts of towns are accessible. You know, if we're trying to bring people in to visit our community for, you know, maybe a week or two, where all could you put them? And then they still have access to public transportation. You know, as we were discussing it, like Douglas is pretty good, right? We have the Q line going. I know there's other bus lines as well, but they're really not accessible and they're not on a consistent timeline. So I just want to piggyback, Amber. I think what you mentioned was spot on, and it's an issue our city really would benefit from addressing.
Yeah, and is it lack of funding, or is there a plan that's achievable, especially when it comes to basic things like bike lanes, you know, things like that. Beyond the bike path is great for a small area, but like when you try to, the painted stripes on the street aren't really safe and they're scary.
And that's something else that goes along with what
people
we're
don't
working
use
on.
them.
Yeah, as we're talking about bringing people in, we did discuss, how bikeable is our community. And yeah, we do have a lot of bike lanes, but I wouldn't utilize them.
No.
Right. Like I appreciate that they're there, but they're terrifying. And we were up in Kansas City last week and just noticing how the difference was they had, they're not stanchions. What are they called?
Bollards.
Bollards. Some kind of permanent, just, small piece of metal to keep cars from just veering in because our community isn't acclimated at this point to bikes sharing the road. I don't know. It just seems like small things like that. And again, as I'm not actually in politics, it might seem, I understand when people say, well, that's just a small fix. I understand that most of the time they're not. But I think something like that could be really beneficial to having more accessible transportation in our community.
Yeah, I mean, just having the plan around it maybe, and then see if it's achievable.
Well, and not only, I agree with you 100%, and not only like having a plan, but like steps in which we start implementing that plan. One of the things I find around here is we have a lot of plans, a lot of studies, but it's actually, this is 5 years out, this is 10 years out, and like, come on, what can we start doing this summer?
Bike lanes seem pretty simple.
Right. But also just going to throw this out there right now, my experience with public transit and Director Tan, who's Director Tan's, he's a good guy. He knows his stuff. He will fire back that, well, one of the problems we're having right now is attracting and retaining bus drivers. Okay, like, so is that a compatibility thing? What is that? We can actually put people through a commercial driver's license course ourselves here at the city of Wichita. You don't have to go to a different school for that. So we've talked about utilizing some of our resources to have these type of credential trainings for people. And, you can get a job with the city or you can get a job with the private sector. Because one of his issues is people come to work for the city on buses and then they go and they get paid more money working in the private sector. My response to that is let's flood the market with people who are trained to be with commercial driver's licenses. Let's train people for free or nearly free. And some of them will want to stay with the city because because of the benefits, because of, work for the city. Some people want to go to the private sector, and that's fine. But also moving forward with this, we have to be thinking about not just public transit as a whole, but is there a step towards more accessibility where could we beef up the queue line? Could we utilize that model to go, north and south if we need it? What are some of the maybe special weekends or days where queue line has an extended route? Like, is that an option to try to get us closer to where we want to be? So I'm going to lean on you guys as well for more of that, but I do want to add into this discussion, if I can't get 10 more buses online next year, could we do something more with the queue line? Could I get something that's more driving our local economy versus just straight transportation? And I agree there with the bike lanes. I think that we have folks who are looking into that. It's not something I know a lot about when it comes to the progress of it. But again, one of the reasons why we have Councilmember Maggie on or ballot on is to hear this stuff. And I know her district is very focused on alternative means for transportation, including bike lanes. She represents like the Riverside area in District 6. So downtown Riverside, that type of area as well. And so we're looking into it. Yes, Andrew.
Hey, so I don't pretend to know everything about the call it the complete streets concept any longer. I helped co-found Bike Walk Wichita, which has now turned into a nonprofit organization. They're probably one of our best advocates for bicycle pedestrian safety and improving the facility, everything in Wichita. We were leading the charge in the bicycle master plan. And so there's a lot of resources that they and others have that can help guide us. And one of the things that a few years ago we really asked the city to consider was adopting a complete streets model for how we design future infrastructure. And that would take into consideration all of these things we're discussing, because it's all about accessibility forever. And the city kind of, this is the part I don't know enough about, and I would like someone more educated than me to know that or validate this, did not adopt a complete streets approach for probably a reason or two that, you know, is in politics and financial related matters in the city. But that would be one way to address this. It forces the city and other developers to consider their impact on development and making sure that the sidewalks are built correctly, that we have the appropriate type of bicycle lanes versus guided or, you know, off or on street, etc. It addresses ADA problems, narrow streets and things like that. It's actually a concept. It's not just a master plan where we have to think about it. It actually says this is the way to design a street. Because what we see is a lot of projects like on Douglas is that they're adopting those types of principles because they make more sense for, say, Douglas Avenue, because we want it to be more walkable. We want more people to go there. It makes it safer. These things should be everywhere, not just on Douglas Avenue, you know? It would have taken away designs principles that the city implemented years ago, like in West Wichita, where they would have a center lane with two east-west or north-south side, you know, lanes with massive sidewalks and make it, you know, different. They would have different concepts that will eventually have to be torn out, you know, if traffic increases, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so we have resources out there. We need to utilize them because they make a lot of sense. I think they help everybody that's concerned here.
And go ahead, Maggie.
Oh, I just want to jump in really quick. It was my first time. I had a lot to learn really, really quickly, but every single outbreak meeting that I went to was focused around homelessness and mental health, which is totally my jam. And I think the root of a lot of our issues, and the transportation and infrastructure bill coming down. And like the mayor said, there is a lot of opportunities right now, and it's very complicated and way over my head, but I'm trying to navigate that with some of my colleagues' help. But there is a lot of opportunity for us with transportation right now, which is something else that's really important to me. You know, increasing the bus fares is not going to be an option. I have talked to Director Tan numerous times on this for actually a couple years, even before I was elected. And I met with some of the legal counsel yesterday to talk about some options that they tried in the past with transit. Somehow we've got to reduce the stigma for riding the buses in Wichita and increase ridership. I don't know if that's a park and ride. I don't know, you know, maybe the multimodal building will help, you know, but that's a few years out. The mayor and I rode the scooters in DC, you know, all over the place. It's actually the first time, I'm embarrassed to say, that I hadn't been on the scooters here in town. That's a great option, but my dad's going to be 75 years old next month, and he will never get on a scooter. He'll get on a bike all day long, but we need to be making sure that we can try to kind of address everybody and not just, you know, the young people that can zip around on a scooter. Or if I would have had Paxton with me, I don't know if I would have felt comfortable doing that. So I think just kind of thinking outside the box on, you know, nobody knows Wichita better than we do, and we just need to advocate a little bit better. And I would urge all of you, I know the transit board is having a really hard time right now getting people engaged, and they're actually talking about merging with Bike Ped. And we desperately need people like all of you that own businesses that can vouch for how important transportation is for all of your services, whether you're selling coffee or, you know, Amber, whether you are having, you know, clients come to you, or Adam and Jesse. Sorry, I can't see who else is on here. I think it's really important that we have stakeholders like yourself speaking up and talking about how important transit is to you and your business. Because, you know, yeah, there's stuff that the mayor and me and the council can do, but we can't do it without your support. And we can't even keep the transit board together and active and actually like able to move the needle on anything for lack of interest. So you guys know more than anybody, we desperately need help for, I know, you know, you guys getting on another board is probably the last thing that you have time for, but this is so important, and it's important for the future of our city. And we really need help advocating for how important this is. And we have an incredible opportunity with some of this money. Director Tan said he can make a phone call and get us all the buses that we possibly need. You know, drivers is a real problem. We're losing a lot of our drivers to the school bus. United or whatever it's called, because they're paying $3 and $4 more an hour. They don't have to work nights. They don't have to work weekends. That's a trend that we're seeing, in other businesses too, but we desperately need bus drivers. So we can work on that part, but we need to help increase the ridership so that we can get more buses so that it makes more sense. We can't have a student trying to get to Wichita State and having to switch buses and take 2 hours to get to class. And that's assuming that everything goes on time. So that's the only way that we're going to be able to increase ridership is to get more buses, to get more routes. And to do that, we need more riders and we need more drivers. So I would encourage you guys to look into those boards and really speak out about how important this could be for your business, because it's really good for everybody. Okay, sorry, I'm done now.
So, I mean, just with that, yeah, it's an issue, definitely. It's one that we should be talking about as we move forward, particularly with our budgets. And again, we have more money now than we've ever had at this point. So we're trying to figure out ways to make those investments. But yeah, the scooter thing, I mean, there's how do we connect buses to bike paths to scooters to how do we look at the entire system more organically than just piecing it. So, but again, it's ongoing and it's time to really address those issues. So I agree. We're going to jump into the next thing, which is, as everyone knows, the women's NCAA tournament is coming up. Councilmember Ballard, she's the only one on the council who's owned a bar, who's owned a coffee shop, who's owned small businesses. No, on the council, not this council, but the other council. So she has a unique perspective that she brings to the table that I think is relatable to a lot of folks here. Also, District 6 is home to a lot of small businesses. And so that's another reason why we asked her to be on. But talking about some of the opportunities with the NCAA and trying to open up that line of communication with us, what do we learn from it? Should we be able to, what should we be, when you all are experiencing this, what can we be doing for the next big event that's going to make it easier for people to get permits or people to, take advantage of this? So Maggie or Ballard, Councilmember Ballard, go ahead and take it away.
You can call me Maggie, it's fine. Yes, it's times like this where the tournament's coming up, and yesterday was St. Patrick's Day that I miss the bar so much. I miss, doing all of the little fun things to try to bring people in, but I'm really excited. I think, bringing the tournament in is an awesome opportunity for some of the businesses. We know that there will be a lot of traffic downtown. I am on the Old Town Association board. I'm not sure. I think Jesse, I think you guys are on that, right? I'm not sure who else is on that, but I've only been to one of the meetings, but they were talking about, even something as small as painting the windows just to or having a little competition to paint the windows to encourage people to participate in the tournament would be really fun. And I think they're showing the games at NASCAR Park. And I know that Mort's was looking at getting one of the licenses that ropes off a little area so that they can move some of the people outside. And that seems to be a fun option. I'm not sure how that would work with some of your businesses or if that is an option, just to try to encourage people to, get outside, still try to stay safe, but also support some of the really cool things that we have going on right now. Adam, are you guys doing anything with the tournament? I mean, are you showing any of the games or anything like that?
No, we've done stuff like that in the past and we've never had the success. People see us as a music venue and not a sports bar. So the one thing we can do is show the Super Bowl and people show up. But other than that, nobody cares.
But you guys are showing the games at NASCAR Park, right?
No, we were planning on it, but apparently
there were licensing issues, and so we would only be able to serve alcohol in the street, and we would have had to have security to keep alcohol out of the park. And so just the financials didn't work out.
Yeah, we
were really bummed, but
we didn't want to be the bad guy that kept everybody from bringing their beer into the park to watch the game. So.
I didn't want to make my staff have to deal with that. It didn't seem fair to.
Next time, if that happens, please let us know, because that's a real missed opportunity. And if that's something that the mayor and I can try to work on, with the rest of the council. I mean, that is the stuff that really irritates me, especially as a small business or bigger business. Those are missed opportunities, and the only person that's hurting is our city. So,
we're really frustrated. But
for officer, whatever that looks like, please reach out to me next time, and I'll see what I can do, because that makes me really, really bummed, because we have an awesome opportunity with this big park with a big screen that would be awesome, and not everybody's going to be able to either go to the game or afford to go to the game, and they shouldn't have to miss out on that.
I think it's still being shown down there, but
Yeah,
we're just not
we're not.
participating.
Yeah, we're not.
It didn't make sense for us financially, and so we couldn't lose money to do something nice. We did that enough. So we have to kind of be really careful on what we get participate in and not. So
no, I understand, but next time, if that's something that you think maybe would help, if the mayor or me or any of the other council members could help with, I mean, that makes me sad, because it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's like what one of the I guess asks as well from this group is, all right, what happened this time around? If we do a good job with the NCAA women's tournament, it's going to open up for other opportunities for those type of tournaments to come in. And we want to make sure that, if it's an issue with permits or an issue with the city or getting security or whatnot, what can we be doing to, particularly during big events like this, to make it so but folks can do stuff.
Moving forward, just, removing that rule. I think it's a city rule that I don't know where it came from, but, we were told that we wouldn't be able to do that. So looking forward to other future tournaments, let's address that now. And then we won't have an issue on our end. Like, that was the issue. And honestly, we have been so overwhelmed. Like, we didn't have time to go through the steps to really fight it. We were like, okay, well, we can't participate. We're moving on. Like, we're flying right now. So, but that's something that, looking down the road, we definitely should address immediately. Like, find out whatever that ordinance
whatever
was
the
or
impediment
whatever.
was.
Let's remove it, because we were fully ready to.
Yeah, we had plans in place, but then when we were told that, we would have to pay extra to get the street closed down, pay extra for the barricades and the fencing, and then also pay additional extra security to keep the booze contained. It just
Well, and just dealing with the public backlash of like having the alcohol contained on the street and not allowed into the park where the screen actually is. Like, we didn't want to. We don't want to be those people that are being the big bad people.
Yeah, it's not a good look for a business.
Like, so it's just it didn't make any sense whatsoever. So we just had to bow out.
And the reality too is we're missing out on that sales tax revenue now.
Yeah.
Like, that huge party type atmosphere outdoors, enjoying the park, watching, drinking, we lost more money by not just closing that street down for you than we would have, not only for your business, also for the experience that people are coming in to have, but also in our own coffers, that sales tax money we're not getting if we wanted to look just at the dollars and cents. So very unfortunate, but moving forward, and I don't blame you guys for not spending a day trying to navigate the system.
Yeah, and I mean, we passed up on the opportunity. Somebody else might have seen a venture that was profitable in that situation, but
I don't know what's happening.
So there might still be something happening there. We will not be the ones holding it.
Yeah, we pretty much tend to just stay away from things like this because of all the red tape and the time and money that it takes. We just haven't had the capacity as a small business and a small brewery. And I think a lot of businesses, I don't want to speak for other businesses, but I think they share that pain with us, where we should be doing a lot of things in our city for this. But that's why we're not, because it's so difficult.
Well, I'm your girl, so I don't even know what I don't know about, red tape and things like that. My bar was way different than that. We could pretty much kind of do, what we wanted, just because we weren't downtown and I didn't have a patio, and all that stuff. But please let me know if something comes up. We are just missing out on a lot of those opportunities, and even if it's just a little bit of work on our end, it's beneficial to everybody. And that stuff is really frustrating to me. I know how hard it is as a small business, and I can't imagine how hard it was during the pandemic. And we need to be taking advantage of all of these opportunities that are literally sitting in our lap, with, some ridiculous stuff that's kind of in the way. So please let me know however I can help, and I absolutely will.
Good.
Thanks, Maggie. We have a bunch of stuff we want to talk to you about soon. So once we get that finalized, we'll hit you up, and then we can talk about this as well.
I can't tell who's talking. Who's talking to me?
It was Jesse.
Okay. Okay, good.
All right. We're one person, by the way. Like, we just very much refer to them as the Harkeys, because they both are great, but it's on my screen as that. So, okay. So moving forward, we got to think. Really good feedback, by the way, when it comes to the NCAA tournament. If red tape is the issue, then we should have a conversation. Like, let's take notes, figure out what's been some of the issues. Maybe talk to our friends in the small business community to see, you know, what's working, what's standing in the way. The reality is, like, we want people to have an incredible experience. We want you to profit from this. We profit when people have a good experience here as a city. So let's make sure that we kind of stay vigilant. If you hear something that sounds silly, like, oh, it shouldn't be like that, let us know so we can fix it. A lot of our ordinances are a bit outdated. So, you know, and if it wasn't for you all or people in this community, we wouldn't have the open air ICT. We wouldn't have some of this other stuff that we pass in hopes that it's going to be helpful. But we want to adjust and build upon that stuff as well. And like I said, Councilmember Ballard is on board to be helpful with this. She represents a lot of downtown. Of course, Johnson represents downtown as well. So we're all in this together when it comes to trying to make sure we create the best environment possible. Moving forward, is there any other comments on the NCAA? So again, the ask is to come back once we go through this, and let's look towards if there's anything that stands out specific that we can fix moving forward. So if there's nothing else, we're going to other. The other thing I'm going to ask for folks to come back next meeting and chat about is are we feeling the recovery? You know, there's like different schools of thought. Are people so sick of this they're out doing what they used to do and things are back to normal, or have people changed the way they do things? And I mentioned a little bit about the statistics and the data that we found at the National League of Cities. I'm very interested in the experiences of our small business community and people who are on the front line experiencing, you know, this bounce back to this new normal. And so, are we feeling a recovery, and what's standing in the way? So that's something I think we have to be thinking about, which could help us adjust some of our programs moving forward.
I mean, just in the live music sector, we're starting to see a bounce back. We're also starting to see, I know you had mentioned like large corporate conglomerates earlier. It's a little different in our world. They're actually becoming more aggressive and working to, you know, have more competition with independents like Wave and Cotillion and all that.
And it's in a very, very predatory nature.
Yeah. So that's not a good thing. They're starting to do a little more of that. So, but, you know, as far as the public, you know, goes, it seems like we're starting to maybe turn a corner, but we'll see. I mean, no, we can't predict anything, you know, so like,
and it's, yeah, I would say it's across the board. You know, I'm sure we all saw this, you know, as things started to come back, it was certain segments of our community who came back more quickly. But I would say across the board, we're seeing whatever normal might be at this point, you know.
Yeah. So we're keeping an eye on it. I don't know that there's anything y'all can do. It's a free market, right?
Yeah. If anybody knows how to take down multinational corporations, we're all ears.
Because it sucks. So it doesn't help us at all. It's actually super bad for our business. And it's very predatory, and there's no good intentions behind it. And it actually sucks money out of our community when they do come here. So yeah, that's an update from us.
Okay. That's really good feedback, to be honest. Because I not sure if everyone at City Hall knows that. I think a lot of times we try to do business with industry leaders, but we might actually be inviting in folks that are going to offset our small locally owned businesses. So that's what we want to avoid. So thank you for that. All right, again, what else? I'd be open, by the way, to making some more appointments moving forward. So if people know people who might be interested in being on this board, please shoot Casey an email. Are we missing a perspective? I know we got nonprofits on here. We have small businesses. Are we missing? Is there, as folks who've been here, we've kind of circled through different sectors, really. But is there a perspective that we should be looking into as well? For example, we talk about transportation. Should we put someone on who does transportation, or should we put someone on who does something, works in a different sector? So let's think about that for next meeting. How moving forward, if we feel that what's the evolution of this board, pretty much. If we feel that COVID is behind us and we're getting back to business, then who should we bring into our circle when it comes to using this moment to adapt our policies so we can be more small business friendly? All right, with that, is there anything else? If not, we might actually get out of here on time if we still have time for open discussion, but. All right, cool. Well, hey, I want to thank everyone. Again, welcome Maggie Ballard to the council. The other person is Michael Hoheisel. Nick Hoheisel is his brother, and he's a state representative, and they are different on the ideological scale. So don't tell Mike I called him Nick. But Nick Hoheisel is very interested in South Wichita, particularly in some of the areas that are seen as blighted or the zip codes that have high crime. And of course, economic development is a way to counter that. So that's kind of his jam. He's also very interested in infrastructure such as roads. So just make sure we might get him on to introduce him to everyone. But he's someone who's here who wants to start getting stuff done. So feel free to reach out to him as well. He won't just forward your email on. Like someone who took this policy conference very seriously. And he strikes me as someone who really wants to get stuff done. He's also very approachable. He's like a kind of joke in politics where like, yeah, he's a normal person. We don't have many of those, which means like he doesn't have a huge ego or anything. He just wants to get stuff done. So we'll make sure that we can make him available to this group as well. So if there's nothing else, then I'll go ahead and make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Andrew. All in favor, please respond by saying aye or a thumbs up. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Yeah, guys have it. We're adjourned. Our next meeting is April 15th. Thank you, guys.